us, even when it's the best of us. Hi, video people. Eric's playing with you. There you go. He's doing a nice broad show choir. Oh, there we go. Now we're going into the Egyptian stance.
Just remember something, Eric.
I just like to point out.
I know what you're gonna say. I've already thought about it. Believe me, I'm trying to remind myself.
What's that?
You'll find out.
Yeah.
Oh God, what am I gonna miss here? Okay, here we go.
I'm trying to do it every show for like the next year.
Okay, here we go. Hey folks, welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast. I have 3 people in the studio tonight. I have with me Eric the artist.
I'm Batman. I could be actually now.
I have with me Gary the stud.
I can be Superman.
And I'm Bob Chrisman, your host, better known as Wonder Woman.
I was wondering if that's what you were going to say.
Well, that's better than Aquaman.
Well, I can't pull off Aquaman, not now.
You can pull him off if you want.
Well, I might have been pull off the old 1960s version, but I cannot do Jason Momoa. And already we've taken a dark turn. Dark turn.
Hey, you started it.
I did start it. Okay, so we have lots of things to talk about tonight that we want to discuss.
Name of our podcast should just be
We started it.
Stay on target and dark turns.
So we have lots of things to talk about with you tonight, and we have several subjects. So we're going to talk with you about the Glass trailer, the second trailer that came out about that. Woohoo! We're going to talk about Spiderman Into the Spiderverse trailer that came out this past week or so.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the rumors surrounding Henry Cavill as Superman.
Yippee!
And, and the potentiality that WB may be picking up on that story as well. And then finally, we're going to talk about Mark Hamill and his discussion about Star Wars Episode 9. And after all that's said and done, after our commercial break, we are going to talk about the Season 1, Episode 1, Star Wars Resistance. It's finally here.
We start a new show.
I'm kind of excited about it.
Third show for this podcast, right?
Gary's over the top. Yeah, this will be the third show. So we've covered the Clone Wars, we've covered Star Wars Rebels, and now we're on to Star Wars Resistance.
If you go back into the archives, you can listen to all the old things.
All the old archives. Okay, so let's get this party started. So, we want to talk about the Glass Trailer 2. Now, I got to be honest here. I know nothing about any of this stuff. Eric's like, we should talk about this. I'm like, great. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Something that Bob knows nothing about.
I know nothing about it. So I'm going to let these guys kind of take it away because I really am just kind of in the dark about it all. I guess I'm looking through the glass at this. Oh. Ha, thank you. That's my only quim for the whole thing. So, Eric and Gary, I'll let you guys kind of take this away and your thoughts on the trailer for Glass. What do you guys think of this?
Right, ladies and gentlemen. If you were a fan of Unbreakable and then a fan of Split, 2 other movies in the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong universe, we are getting a sequel to connect them both. It is Glass.
What a twist.
What a twist. The original Unbreakable, as we all know, came back out in the 90s. It was about Bruce Willis discovering he was a superhero and was kind of an anti-superhero movie in that it was extremely slow and dramatic, but it had a huge cult fan base. And then 2 years ago, I think it was, 2 summers ago, Split came out. Maybe it was just last summer. Split came out with James McAvoy playing a character who had multiple personalities, and one of which turned out to be an actual monster that could do inhuman things. And the twist at the end of that one was that you saw Bruce Willis. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen these movies.
Well, I hope you've seen them by now. But
you saw Bruce Willis sitting at a counter in a diner, and you realized that this was connected to Unbreakable, which had come out nearly 20 years before. And we were getting a combined universe by M. Night Shyamalan. And here we are now, just this summer at San Diego Comic-Con. They released the first trailer for Glass, which, if you're in the know, that's Elijah Price. That's his name. Yeah. Elijah Price, played by Samuel Jackson, his nickname was Mr. Glass because he has such fragile bones and he has that bone density disease. So the trailer kind of reveals more about what we saw in the first one, which is that it looks like the majority of the movie is going to take place in an insane asylum, where all 3 of these people have been committed because... Well, Samuel Jackson years ago, because it was determined, at the end of Unbreakable, he was arrested for his crimes. And more recently, obviously, James McAvoy's character, with the multiple personalities, because he's caught because of the crimes he committed. But for some reason also, Bruce Willis is thrown in there. So we're going to probably learn what probably his vigilantism gets him arrested.
Probably.
And with all 3 of them convinced that they are, super beings of some sort or almost comic booky like, they're considered insane and they're being studied. So the trailers themselves look pretty darn cool. And like most trailers, if you don't want to know some of the cool scenes that are going to happen, or that you could possibly figure out the way the plot's going to go, don't watch them, because this is going to give you a lot. But I watched it, and I'm fine with that, and I'm looking forward greatly to the movie. I think it's going to be really cool, and fans of Unbreakable and fans of Split, I think, are going to get a really neat third movie, and it looks like Sam Jackson's going to rock it out. Gary, what do you think?
Want me to tell you my opinion of what I saw in the
yes.
Oh,
you were mentioning an opinion earlier, and I think you have an idea.
I got it, do you think?
I don't know, but it's interesting. It's an interesting idea.
Well, they're from the trailer, they're putting it as Mr. Glass and the Beast teaming together to go against Bruce Willis's Unbreakable.
Yes. He even uses the line, "This is the villains teaming up."
Right. And I honestly think that the doctor that's been studying them is the mastermind behind the whole thing, to get the three of them to fight each other. And that's where the twist is she's got her powers over all three of them.
That would be really interesting.
I actually, like, as I was watching the trailer, I was thinking a different way, like almost like Gary, but a little bit different. I'm almost wondering if all three of them are the villains and she's the hero in the long run, right? So like the next movie maybe flips the whole scene around where all three of them are the villain and she ends up being the hero who has to stop all three of them. Well, which would be an interesting twist too, I think.
Well, that's where I'm thinking is they're making Bruce Willis to be a baddie, but he's actually going to be teaming up with the three of them or the two of them to go against her. That's what I'm thinking.
That'd be interesting. I mean, I would never expect that, because Bruce Willis has been, the whole mythology of the Unbreakable universe is that he's a good guy. That he was the opposite of Mr. Glass. Mr. Glass was Elijah Price, born with a bone density disease. His entire life was made fun of. He ended up becoming, he studied and was a genius, and he went looking for the opposite of him, which he believed to be superheroes. That they were, that somewhere in the past, the story of comic books were like any other mythology fable. They were based upon someone somewhere that it got exaggerated and tweaked over time and turned into spandex and flying and all that. And what he believed was, no, they're just people out there who are stronger and better and purer and good people who have the ability to save others. But it goes beyond human. And that's, according to the mythology, that's Bruce Willis. He is the protector. There's even a whole symbolism of the fact that he is a security guard as his job. He works at a college campus. He's the security guard around the sports facilities. He watches people going in and out during the games. And it's determined that he thinks it's intuition, but he's actually got the ability that when he touches people, he can see bad things they've done.
Okay.
But he has to touch them to do it. And another great little detail that they did was he has on his back security. So it's almost like that's his superhero name is Security. That's, the way by the end, his raincoat flaps like a cape. I mean, he looks like kind of this weird hero thing. But when he does when he touches people and you see his visions, they're always from the point of view of a security camera. Okay. An upper corner, aimed down shot. And it's just like this neat little detail. It's like he almost sees the security camera footage of people's lives and the crimes they commit. So with that much setting him up to be the good guy who sees crimes and stops them, I don't know how they would flip that mythology and make him a third bad guy. It'd be interesting. If they need something to make it work.
Well, that's Bob's theory is that they're going to be bad guys.
Okay, right. You're saying the theory is that she's the ultimate bad
big
guy.
Baddie.
The big baddie.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my theory. Not knowing much coming into this.
Right. And that's I could see happening. The twist being that she has some sort of abilities at the end.
Because it looks like the Beast is going to go after her and he like falls down, like she can turn him off.
I wonder.
So the one guy's powers the Beast, the other guy's powers the ability to see things, right?
Yes.
What's Samuel L. Jackson's power?
He's a genius.
Okay, so he's just super smart.
There's a thing in there. There's
almost like a Lex Luthor type.
You see the older lady in there. It's his mother. Mm-hmm. She was the one who got him started with the comic books and everything, and was protective of her son. And even though he became a person who caused accidents and all this, he was a genius, and she always admired him for his genius. And that's why there's lines in there about how you think you can hold him, but you can't. He can outthink you all. He can outplot and plan you all and have you running in circles, because that's what he's good at. He's a villainous mastermind, but with the weak body. You know? So that's how he was kind of Bruce Willis's opposite. Bruce Willis wasn't a super intelligent guy. He was more of the brute force, but he was a hero. Okay. And there was just a lot that I thought M. Night did with that with the mythology and with turning it into like a real world thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the pacing of it is very slow. I admit that. Like first time I saw Unbreakable, we're like, wow, well, I'll guarantee you this movie does not have a car chase in it because it's a very slow, very cinematic, very dramatic movie.
Right.
But by the end, when you look through at all the little things he thought through with bringing the mythology into real life, I love it. I think it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite movies. So, and Split was much more. It had more action to it. It definitely was up. It still was the typical M. Night Shyamalan talky.
Right.
Lots of rules, lots of mythology to dig through. But it definitely had more going on. It was quicker. And this one looks like, I mean, at least the way it's edited together for the trailer, and we all know how accurate those usually are. It looks like there's a lot happening. So I'm going to be in the seat for it, but that's, I'm a fan from a long time ago.
I was going to say, so you definitely would be in the theater to go see it. Gary, what about you? Do you think you go to the theater to see it, or
Yeah,
wait?
this will probably be the second M. Night
Night
Shyamalan
Shyamalan.
Ding Dong movie I actually go watch in the theater.
What was the first one you saw?
The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
So, not being a huge M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong fan, I just don't see myself going to theater. But you know what? You guys have piqued my interest that I might download and watch them at some point.
You should watch
time,
the old movies because they're both good in their own right. Just like I said, if you go in knowing that Unbreakable is
slower.
too bad you know all the tricks and twists because it really was nice and was pretty cool. And then Split is more of it was supposed to be a horror movie, wasn't it? It was
Right.
rated R, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know why because it wasn't really that violent or scary.
No.
But-
Just with the
Probably.
girls and stuff, I
Yeah,
guess.
it was pushed towards more of being a horror movie
Okay.
with his supernatural elements, and you were never sure if it was supernatural.
Right.
I mean, and you had no idea it was connected to Unbreakable. It really seemed like it was just another movie of his.
Right.
And then the connection and the whole
Came at the very
group
end.
universe came at the very end, just changed, it flipped the script, and you're kind of like, oh my God, this is a superhero movie.
So it's almost kind of like when Samuel showed up for the first time in
Yeah.
Avengers, and
It
like
was
you're like, oh
literally-
my gosh, we're doing the Avengers initiative now.
And then one of the best parts of the campaign, which you didn't realize, was they came out with posters for Split that was James McAvoy's face, and it was all like there were cracks, like it was broken glass, but it was half a face and the broken glass. But when you see, and I think they put posters out that sometimes showed one half the face, one time showed the other. When you brought them together, the cracks came down almost like a Batman mask around his face, and you would have had no idea. You didn't pick up on it. You never would have guessed it. So there was neat little things they were doing in the marketing and stuff for the movie that you only figured out much later. So that's why, I mean, people give M. Night a bad rap because he did go through that ego period. He did Lady in the Water and The Happening and things that just didn't work. And then he did I never was a fan of it, but the atrocious, apparently, Last Airbender movie.
Yeah.
And, he has a tendency to write.
Even The Village, I was like,
Yeah. So
No,
I
not a huge
I
fan
enjoyed
of
The
The
Village. It was okay. It wasn't his top-notch stuff. But
it was too predictable.
yeah. He seemed to get into kind of a rut, and he needed to work his way out of it. But he came out with that one a couple years ago about the kids going to see the grandparents, and apparently that one was, I never saw
really?
it, but that was apparently, that was like his starting to come back type movie. That did really well. And then Split came out, and everyone's like, oh, it's getting even better. And then the twist came out and connected to Unbreakable, and people got really excited. So, like I said, I, for one, I'm in the seats.
Okay, we're gonna pause quick. So we took a quick break, folks. It just happens in the video world here, and sometimes life's got to come first. Or our legs.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I want to move on to our next topic, which is kind of interesting. I wanted to talk about the trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. It's the second official trailer, dropping this week in Marvel Land, and I just thought this trailer was really interesting. I mean, I watched it the other day online. I think it was on Facebook that I happened to see it happening, and I was just like, this is an interesting trailer, and I just decided we should talk about it because of everything that's going on in it. What do you guys think of Into the Spider-Verse? I mean, I have my own points, and I'll give those in a second, but what do you guys think of this movie? I mean,
It's a Spider-Man movie.
which means Gary's out. This one doesn't pique your interest more than, say, the latest Spider-Man movies. I mean, I know you're not a huge Spider-Man fan. I totally get that. Is this better or worse than the live-action Spider-Mans that we've seen?
I don't know until I see it.
Okay.
You're
skeptical as usual.
Yeah.
I get it. Eric, what did you think of this trailer?
Okay, on paper, it's a crazy concept.
Right.
We are going to, we've got Spider-Man movies coming out. We've got Spider-Man now with in the Marvel Cinematic Universe shared with Sony, and we got this actor playing it. We finally kind of got a handle on it where people are liking the character and liking the movies. Let's come out with an animated one that completely is aimed towards the comic book fans.
Right.
It appeals heavily to people who know the comic book lore.
Right.
But we'll make at least one version of the Spider-Man pretty clearly the Tobey Maguire-ish Spider-Man from that universe. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a movie about Spider-Man and alternate universe Spider-Mans meeting up in an animated form. It's like, if I was sitting in a meeting with this, I'd be like, "What? Stop! Why would we want to do that? We got
who in their right mind would do this?
Yeah, we've got Spider-Man in the movies with Marvel, and he's doing great. Let's simplify this. Let's keep it going. You know, we come out with Homecoming, come out with Far From Home. Let's do our own trilogy and keep it simple. But no, we got Venom that came out, and now we got this. But that being said, the trailer works for me purely on a comic book level, ignoring the movies.
Right.
This is it's almost to me like a Teen Titans Go movie.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking
that
too.
Works outside of the DC universe. This is almost like its own thing that works outside of the Marvel universe. And if you're a fan of the comics, you're going to enjoy it. So I'm highly interested.
I'm actually, the one thing that's got piqued my interest in this is the fact that they are throwing some of the weird stuff of the Marvel universe in it. And I've always said there's weird people that they can't do in live action Marvel movies. Come on, MODOK is never going to end up in a live action Marvel movie. That's just not a realistic thing. Spider-Ham is not going to end up in a live action Spider-Man movie. I mean, we're just being realistic. But to put him in an animated feature like this, that quite honestly seems like it's kind of making fun of itself.
It is.
And
it's
having
definitely
poking fun at the Spider-Man universe, and
it's very self-referential.
But at the same time, Bob, if you can put Howard the Duck in the movies,
well, yeah, I know what you're saying. You could. I'm just saying that
the thing is,
I don't see Disney doing it. That's
Howard
the
the
thing.
Duck was a funny tagline.
Right.
Spider-Ham looks like he's a major part of this film's plot line and interacting with other characters. So to me, that's a risk. But in animation, you kind of let go of those unrealisms. It works.
And you can say, well, that's just an animated thing,
Right.
That I actually kind of agree with you, Eric, about the idea that they're going to have to be careful in somehow separating this from the MCU, making sure that
they're going to make an Avengers.
Fans
they're going to make a joke reference.
What I mean?
I'm
sure
they're going to
make
joke something with the level of humor I saw in this trailer.
Yeah.
There's going to be a joke about ashes falling or something,
or snapping of the finger,
There's going to be references. I guarantee it.
And I think that's okay. As long as you're doing that. And like you said, it was funny because I was thinking the same thing, and I was going to say the same thing, and you beat me to it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That this is very much the Teen Titans Go of the Marvel Universe, and it worked. I mean, DC made a ton of money off of Teen Titans Go, and quite honestly, think kind of created part of a following with a group of kids who otherwise may not have cared about DC characters. Went to the theaters, got hooked on that, jumped into the new TV show, and are kind of into it. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering...
And then they're going to go watch Titans and be like, this is dark.
That's not right. Yeah. But this one, I'm wondering if there's I'm hoping there's a cartoon for Spider-Man and then Spiderverse going to follow up on that at some point, and maybe that's a thing that could jump people back into Spider-Man and
let's face it,
Spiderverse.
They are hitting on other characters. I saw Fisk in there, Kingpin. I definitely saw Scorpion and the Lizard.
Right.
I don't know who else they're going to drop in, but...
Well, let's go through all the Spider-Mans that they had there.
Well, they had the Miles Morales Spider-Man.
I don't know who his major villain is.
No. The different Spider-Man.
So there's Miles Morales. There's a regular Peter Parker.
Yep.
There's Spider-Ham.
Right.
There's Spider-Gwen.
Yep.
And there was Spider-Man Noir.
Right.
Were the 5 I at least started with.
Right.
And there seem to be the main ones in the trailer, but I have a feeling you're going to see others. Oh, I think they showed a little bit of manga Spider-Man.
Thank you. That's what Spider Ninja. Yeah.
I think they showed it, and that was done by Scotty Young. I think did the illustration for that work. So I wonder if they're gonna. I'd be very interested in seeing if they kind of pay tribute to his art style with that, because clearly the art style's changed for all these characters.
It looked like from the little bit we saw that they were gonna give her the little twinkly eye thing, and things they do in anime that make that stuff. I mean, personally, I've always liked the Miles Morales Spider-Man. I know not everybody's a big fan of it. I like the Miles Morales.
I think it's a good character.
I think he's a good character. So it seems like that's going to be the focus of the movie.
Well, see, that's what's interesting.
I think that's a good choice.
The approach here is, you're doing this. You'd think let's start off in the Peter Parker universe,
right?
Because that would be the one people are most accustomed to, but it looks like you might start off in the Miles Morales universe and have Peter Parker kind of come into it.
And I think that decision was made in an effort to separate it from Homecoming and everything else.
Yes.
I really do. And actually, I think it's a good choice. I really do. I like Miles Morales Spider-Man, and seeing him in a cartoon version in this way, I think, is a good way to kind of introduce that all. And
To a bigger audience.
to a bigger audience. And seeing Spider-Gwen, I again, another character I like.
Yeah.
But I like
Great
Spider-Gwen.
costume. Spider-Gwen always had a great
Thank you. That's
costume
what
design.
I like about Spider-Gwen. Her costume. There's something about
Yeah.
the mask into the hood thing.
With the webbing inside the hood.
Yeah, I just always thought that looked so cool.
There's a couple redesigns that have come out in, say, the past 10 years or so that I've liked that I think are really well done. That's one of them.
Yeah.
The new Batgirl is another with the clip.
Yeah.
You can actually see the buttons where her cape attaches, and you can see the way the outfit would work.
Yep.
I've always thought that was a good redesign. There's Gwen Poole, but she's a good character, but I don't know if that's necessarily a great costume design.
Yeah.
But there's been a number lately, and Spider-Gwen's one of them.
Have you seen the release of images of Batwoman from the set?
Yeah, they nailed
on
it.
the WB. I was like, wow. Okay, there's somebody who actually knows how to do cosplay. Like,
Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job.
The only thing
getting
they
that
did that I noticed was the inside of her cape in the comics is like blood red, super intense red.
Right.
Frames her like really brightly. Probably wouldn't show up great on screen.
Yeah.
And they've darkened it. It's a very deep burgundy.
Yeah, it's like almost a maroon.
Yeah. But other than that, it's great.
Okay, what do you guys think about the person they picked for?
Ruby Rose.
Yeah,
I don't know. See, I know the
I don't know
name
enough
and
about
I've seen
her.
little bits and pieces, but
she was the girl that was in John Wick 2 with the tattoos and stuff.
oh
Okay.
yeah,
I think it's a perfect match.
that's a good choice. Yeah.
I think it's a perfect match.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that plays out, you know.
So,
Apparently, I didn't know a lot about Batwoman. I thought I did, and then I realized what I know about Batwoman is actually Batgirl.
Yeah,
And I didn't know
there's
they're
a
two
couple.
different characters. I was
The
like,
redesign with the red hair came out, I want to say, like in the early mid 2000s.
yeah, they said like 2005 or something
Yeah.
like that. It came out.
And
I didn't even realize
seeing
that.
it and thinking it was striking. The red hair and the red inside of the cape and the dark black suit with the red boots. Because there was that old Batwoman, which was the one with the sealed face mask that came. Remember that
Yes.
was popular in the early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s.
And that's what I thought they were going for.
Yeah,
and I didn't
she was
realize.
like it was almost like stitched up, and
Yeah.
she
Yep.
didn't even talk, and she was
Yeah.
silent and everything.
and I like that costume too.
Yeah, that was a good costume. But
Yeah.
then this one came out, and now this one's getting in with the Marvel or the DC TV
Right.
shows.
And when they said Batwoman, that's what I was thinking. It was the old one. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not. And then I had to go look it up, and I'm like, oh, apparently it is. I had to keep up on
Yeah.
my Batman lore, and I didn't. So shame on me.
So I'm excited for this. I think this is an interesting move for Marvel. And
What I
I'm
find
interested
interesting
in-
here is it's a win, I think, at least so far from what I've seen. So here they are. It's a win in the live action. Now they're starting to win in the
It was always said that
animation
they
category.
they had the live action down, but the DC was the animation king, and
yeah.
they still are by far. But if Marvel can start pushing inroads into that,
if they start doing more like this, I think they could start making a headway on DC's animation side of things. Okay, that brings me to my
Speaking of
next subject, which
speaking of
is
DC,
DC. So apparently, according to
DC
several
seems
sources,
to stand for discontinued.
apparently, according to several sources, including Hollywood Reporter, which I actually kind of believe quite often,
Yeah.
among many other websites and other sources, have confirmed that yes, Henry Cavill is out as Superman. And actually, Gary, you nailed this story before it even came out in the papers, that the talks broke down over Shazam.
He was supposed to be in Shazam.
Golly!
And apparently they didn't want to pay him what he thought he was owed.
Yeah.
And so Warner Brothers basically said, so since you don't want to do it our way, we're just going to find somebody else. And apparently part of this is apparently the argument over Supergirl in the movies, which I didn't even know that was a thing that was even being discussed. Apparently they want to bring Supergirl in, but the problem is if she is, then Kal-El is an infant.
Yeah.
He's too old. So, having Henry Cavill around as Superman doesn't work if that's what they want to do. So, somebody inside Warner's is saying they're trying to hit a reset button with the DC universe. Steering the ship slowly into another direction.
But that's the thing, and this is where we talked about DC the past couple shows. We're still getting an Aquaman movie with Jason Momoa as as Aquaman, who was in Justice League with Cavill and Batfleck. And we're still getting a Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot, or however you pronounce her name, and was in the Justice League with Cavill and Batfleck. But apparently those two are not them anymore. But Ezra Miller's still on as the Flash, but they don't know when his movie's necessarily coming out, and maybe it's being held back. And what about the guy who played Cyborg? And will they take Cyborg out of the equation entirely and throw him into the Titans TV show? And they cannot seem to get their stuff organized for movies. And we're still getting a Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. And
right.
now, apparently James Gunn coming on to do Suicide Squad 2 says he's resetting it.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they recast half that thing.
Right.
So they cannot keep a continuity to save their lives.
And the really odd thing about the whole thing, too, is they say they're moving forward. They're moving forward with the Justice League, but they're recasting Batman and Superman. I'm like, how do you move forward with two different people that's moving backwards? I mean, like I said, I can't help but sit here and wonder how Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa feel here.
Yeah.
Because first off, Gal Gadot, she's got some bragging rights. She's got the first successful, let's face it, DC movie in a while.
And is fantastic. People weren't sure about her as the character, and she's fantastic.
She did a great job, and I give her credit, and I thought she portrayed Wonder Woman well. But now she's got to sit here wondering, like, she's really kind of getting the rug ripped out from underneath her by Warner Brothers, because the reality is, yes, she's got the 1984 movie coming out, but her future after that is suddenly kind of suspect.
Yeah.
And anything they might hint towards about the future, if it involves Superman or Batman, may not really matter at this point. If you're Jason Momoa, you're about to come out with Aquaman. This goes down just before you're coming out with Aquaman,
and now people are going to giant movie.
Right. So now people are going to go, well, why would I go see Aquaman when it sounds like Captain America? Or sorry, Captain America. I just can't believe I said that. When it sounds like Superman and Batman are out.
Yeah, so it's like, why get invested in this? Because this might be the only movie. It's like, oh, we're done.
So why would you spend your effort and money and time and mentality trying to learn about a universe that quite honestly looks like it's going to collapse in on itself anyway?
Yeah. It's hard for people to get invested, and that's the trick. Is think about it. We just had Chris Evans sign off as playing Captain America for 8 years,
right?
Through multiple movies and a whole series of arcs with the character and other characters, and through Avengers movies. And it's emotional. We're connected with him. We're invested in him. We want to see
people
what happens.
People were literally crying, including myself.
It's that's connection with the character. But DC, it's like they can't seem to hold on to these people long enough for us to really get that connection. And if they're never going to get that, they're never going to come close to what Marvel's doing.
I'm starting to begin to think it's not DC. It's Warner Brothers. It's the problem.
Yeah, that's when I say DC, I don't necessarily mean DC.
I get it, and so part of me is sitting here saying, like, if Warner Brothers doesn't want to do the DC universe justice, I know this is kind of ironic, the word I'm using, but if they don't want to do it right, then maybe it's time for them to hand it off to somebody that does want to do it right. Maybe it's time to hand it off to Paramount or Sony or...
How many puns can we put in here? Warner Brothers is not doing it justice. It sounds like they're out of their league. It's no wonder that this is just a flash in the pan.
But you get what I'm saying,
just
right?
Water over the bridge.
Oh, boy.
I was just going to go, Aquaman.
What they need to do is what Disney did with Marvel. Separate DC from Warner Brothers. Make DC their own entity and let them go with it.
Right.
Because now Marvel has Marvel films.
Right.
Focused on it.
And I just don't see Warner Brothers letting that happen. And that's where I'm saying, like, maybe it's time to let them sell that off to somebody who's willing to let that happen. Do you get what I'm saying?
You don't sell it off. You just split it.
Yeah.
You're still under the Warner Brothers banner.
But my problem with that is you still have the Warner Brothers CEOs over your head, and I think that's the problem. Well, the Warner Brothers CEOs are the problem.
What do you think's going on with Star Wars?
Well, I get that.
You got the Disney execs,
correct, putting their hands inside of it, and we're lucky because they haven't messed with Marvel too much. They could have messed Marvel up, and they didn't.
Who's to say they haven't yet?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're lucky they haven't put their hand in there yet.
We'll see where Phase 5 goes.
Right, and they maybe the James Gunn thing was the beginning of them putting their hand into it. You know what I mean? I don't know. We'll see.
They've already said there's going to be a new Guardians.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Whole new team.
So this is all like weird, which all brings me back to our fourth point. So our fourth point is that it has now become pretty clear by a lot of people, and this came out on Fandom Wire this week, and I've been hearing rumors about this, but I didn't want to believe it till we could confirm the Henry Cavill thing, that apparently the CW has been marketing, shipping, shopping around the idea of another Superman series. Apparently their hope... I love the CW to an extent. They're like taking advantage of the situation here. Their hope is that Superman falls apart in the movie theater so they can be like, great, can we have him on TV now?
They're ambulance chasing.
But they are. Part of me says I don't blame them for it because they've got great shows. Arrow, Supergirl, Flash. So far, I've yet to see
I've never seen any footage of this. I don't watch the DC shows, I'll admit.
Okay.
So I don't know how this guy is as Superman.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. All I can say is that as far as I'm concerned, they have not had a total crash and burn yet on the CW when it comes to a DC show.
I hear Arrow's starting.
It's starting to wane, but this season picked back up again. I was about to drop it. I really was. I was like, all right, I'm watching the first 2 episodes of the season just to see what happens. And actually, I was kind of like, oh, okay. Now we're doing something where I was like, okay, maybe you got they piqued my interest again. Oliver Queen's in jail now, and all sorts of weird things are going on. I'm like, all right, now I kind of want to see where this goes.
Did you see the release of that poster for their crossover event or whatever? And it showed, I swear to God, it showed him in a different costume, like as the Flash.
Yes.
Or something. Whoa. I was confused.
I think what's happening in that particular crossover event is they're all going to end up exchanging powers. So
that could be really entertaining.
That could be entertaining, right? Yeah, right. Like, so it's even the last crossover event they had where
did you see the one where someone photoshopped him as Supergirl?
No.
With long hair?
No.
But he still had the scruff?
Oh, jeez.
He commented back on the Photoshop job, and he's like, I cannot unsee that.
The last crossover event was really good, and
that was the Invasion one, right?
Earth X was it?
Earth X, yeah. And it focused on the time traveling group, DC Legends of Tomorrow. I like that show too. I mean,
was it 2 years ago that it was the alien invasion then?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It was the alien invasion. Though this past one was the one where the bad guys are the good guys and the good guys are the bad guys. I forget what that was.
Oh, the Legion thing.
The Legion, yeah. And I thought that was another good crossover. Like I told you guys, cinematic to an extent. And across all of the platforms, they did a great job, I thought, bringing it all together. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, maybe they could do Superman justice. My only thing was, and I posted this on Facebook, and I'm serious, they've done it before. I mean, let's face it. We've seen Superman. Sorry. The reality is, Lois Lane, what is it? Lois and Clark, right?
Yeah.
And then we had Smallville.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, well, we have rehashed Superman several times on TV. As a matter of fact, on the CW for that matter. And so I just can't, I can't wrap my head around this idea that we're going to rehash him again. And then I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, Arrow wouldn't exist were it not for Smallville, right? Like Smallville started the Arrow. Everybody knows that. And the real reality is, if you bring Superman back, how do you do that without somehow referencing Smallville or bringing back the Smallville characters directly? I don't know. If you're going to put them in the same universe as Arrow, it makes it very difficult. What do you guys think of this idea of bringing back Superman as a TV show? Good idea to relaunch him on TV or not?
Superman as a character has always posed a problem for me because of his omnipotence. He's so powerful. Mm-hmm. Cinematically, in giant movies where he can do amazing earth-shattering things, and you can get that, I could see it. I always feel like you put him on the small screen, and you have to go the limited route, like they did with Smallville. It's like, we're not going to show the powers
because he's a teenager.
He doesn't
still
fly.
Figuring him out.
Or you get Lois and Clark, which I know people loved at the time, but I don't believe did.
Oh my gosh, it was so campy.
Yeah. So, I think Superman on the small screen is tough. Now, granted, shows have gotten better. We keep talking about some TV shows that, Game of Thrones can have cinematic episodes, and certain TV shows are filmed beautifully. This is the WB.
I was going to say,
they're not at that level.
I don't think WB is at that level.
So, how good do they do with the special effects and all the other DC shows, like Supergirl? I mean, are they doing her justice because she's almost as powerful? I mean,
to be honest,
as powerful.
I think they're doing an okay job. My only issue with Supergirl, personally, is they don't focus on Supergirl. They're still focusing on her sister and all these other characters.
And that's probably because of budget limitations.
You might be
They're
right.
like,
And
you can't have her flying around doing super in every episode. We can't afford it.
Right.
Well, one of the problems is who is the main villain for superhero?
I don't know.
Exactly. There was no big villains, and so they were kind of like going through these weird. There were a couple but like none that I was like,
Brainiac is the one they've been putting in there a lot, isn't it?
Who?
Brainiac? No,
No,
actually,
that's more of a love interest for.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a love interest a little bit, and I forget the girl that they threw in recently who was
Wraith or whatever.
yeah Wraith. But that apparently that was a really small story arc that they made into a big thing, and it was like they're having to grasp at straws a little bit, and that's the thing about Superman. It could be big. Smallville didn't do it justice. I don't think Lois and Lane did it justice.
Smallville was good in the early years because it was an
Right.
interesting early mythology, but then it got bigger and bigger and more involved and more.
I actually liked it in the later years personally. But,
And everybody that came within 10 feet of kryptonite became superpowered. Yeah.
right.
That was my problem with Smallville.
And there was so much kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like everywhere. I mean, I think my thing with Smallville was that you never really saw Superman until the very end. That very last episode.
You really didn't really see him.
Even then,
Right.
he wasn't in. He never got to wear the costume.
Never in costume. Yeah,
It was a little digital
just
figure.
Digital
that
figure.
did it.
Yeah. So it never. So to me, like if they're gonna do it justice, and they're gonna do Superman on the small screen, you got to bring Superman's big villains in and do it right. Like bring Brainiac in, bring in Darkseid, bring in some of these big guys,
Starro.
And I think
and make it Starro. Good
I
Lord.
think that's the problem: is the limited budgets on TV.
Yeah.
It's going to come across either campy or cheap.
Yeah. So there's some limitations there. Okay.
So it's still too early to talk about who they're going to cast as the new Superman and Batman.
Probably, I think
John
it really
Hamm for
is.
Batman. I still go by it.
Now, if they do a Superman story like they do with Gotham,
Yeah.
it might be okay.
Like an alternate universe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
But then you're getting into just more things that are disconnected, and it's so scattered.
But Gotham did it right though. They captured it pretty good. I didn't like it when I first watched it, but I watched
It grew on me.
binging the whole series.
Yeah,
so
I started off going, ugh, kind of like, oh my gosh, they're getting so much wrong. And then the more it got wrong, the more I was kind of like, okay, well, if I guess kind of ignore that, just go with it.
I guess I was watching Gotham as the story of James Gordon.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Gary. If you look at it from that perspective, it does, it works.
That's how I started watching it. So.
Yeah. Okay. So our last subject, because we're a Star Wars and more podcast, we can't help but talk about the latest news of Star Wars, and that is that Mark Hamill has confirmed
That Chewbacca's coming back.
yes, no, he is actually
Ewoks are
going
coming
to
back.
come back to episode
Porgs are coming back.
9.
He's going to know everybody's Shatterpoint.
So he even tweeted, I mentioned keeping my hashtag Star Wars opinions to myself, and what happens? It triggers an avalanche of questions about the next one. All I can say is, yes, I'm in it. Other than that, just consider it episode 9 comment.
9 being spelled like no in German.
9.
He's going to be Jedi Killer Dillion.
I was going to bring up that he trained. It was one of the Knights of Ren. Was Jedi Killer Dillion.
Jedi Killer Dillion. He trains him. So how do you think, what role does Mark Hamill play in episode 9? I mean, what do you
Luke
guys really
Skywalker.
think? I mean, holy crap. I can't believe we're saying that. So, how do you think Luke Skywalker plays his role in episode 9? Does he actually come back to life?
Here's the thing. I honestly don't know. The logical part of me wants to say, Force Ghost, it's simple. He's going to appear to Rey, end of story, blah, blah, blah.
And that's how he trains Rey and continues on with their path.
And he won't even be in it that much. He'll be in it a little bit.
Right.
Part of me goes, bringing JJ back, that he had these original ideas for an arc, a series of arcs, and then he felt, I really feel like he felt like they got tromped on, which we all know they did through all the stories and stuff. Is there some possibility, and them not having Leia to be the focus like they wanted,
Right.
is there some possibility in his mind, something he's done that's going to make fans cheer because somehow Luke's alive? I can't 100% rule it out. I don't logically believe it. My mind tells me Force Ghost, but there's this small part of me that goes, maybe.
James Brolin's going to be in it. He's going to unsnap his fingers, and he's going to come back.
And everything's going to get reversed.
Yeah.
All I could think of, and it sounds so awful, was I was like, okay, well, maybe Luke is still alive because all that green milk just did a body good, right? I mean, like, how else could Luke still be alive?
Or James Brown's going to come in and say, body slide by 1.
So, is it possible that Luke...
Here's the thing. Honestly, when he vanished, his arm vanished with him.
Okay.
What if Luke has reached the level of power that not only could he force project, he actually went somewhere.
Okay.
He teleported.
Like teleported someplace?
He phased to somewhere else.
Well, that's where I'm saying... Remember, we had that episode of... not Clone Wars, Rebels, where Ahsoka went into that...
Temple.
Like, Phantom Zone right in the middle of all it. Like, what if Luke's...
He's in a temple.
In a temple in the Phantom Zone somewhere, and he's able to walk out somewhere onto the regular universe and bring himself back.
This would be great. You're going to see Ewan McGregor in it. You're going to see Liam Nielsen.
Why not?
You're going to see Vader in white.
You're going to see Liam
Mace-
Neeson. I have a special set of skills. I'm going to come and take care of you, Kylo.
Mace is still alive. He walks out too. Why not? I mean, like, part of me sits here and says, if that is a storyline they're going to run with, this whole idea that Ahsoka had that she could come out of whatever portal, well, now everything's possible because you could undo it all.
It's let's put it this way. This is 9. This is the end of the 3rd trilogy, which is supposed to be the 9-movie arc.
Right.
It definitely went off the rails in 8, in my opinion, as being the trend of the arc because it became less about this. It's supposed to be the arc of the Skywalkers.
Right.
And that was always the intention. And they got upset that all this was about the Skywalkers constantly. That was the intention.
Right.
And they tried to really shift it and say, nope, we're going to get rid of them. I'm going to upend everything. I didn't like it. I don't think it worked. Not for any other reason than I didn't think the story worked that way. And it was supposed to be the story of the Skywalkers. Well, here we are. We're at 9. This is the big ending of this trilogy. If more movies come out after this, it's probably at that point going to be a clean slate. We're going to move into other characters and other parts of the universe.
Like I said, that kid is probably
whatever.
the main storyline.
But if they're going to do something and end the Skywalker saga, if JJ's like, I got to do it. I got to bring it back to give them this end of the Skywalker saga, and it's the 9th episode, they do need to go big. This can't just be another, Rey is mad at Kylo, and it can't be another Kylo's a moody person who attacks people.
Or it can't just be like Rey is a Jedi now and she starts a temple. Yay,
yeah,
go
I mean,
Rey.
if they do too much predictable, he needs to do something big. And I'm hoping, just hoping, it's there. Because, yeah, I didn't like The Force Awakens at first, because it was, I felt it was Star Wars again, and it was.
Right.
I like it better than I liked The Last Jedi. And only because at least it was still trying to be the story of the Skywalkers and the story of the characters we knew and all that. And it wasn't this whole... And I like the new characters, don't get me wrong. I think Rey could be awesome, and I think Kylo Ren could be really cool, and I like Poe, and, BB-8's a great robot, and it's all good. But I felt like it went off the rails. And I don't know. I can't, getting back to the original point, I can't 100% believe it's going to be only as a ghost.
I have a theory, and I want to see what you guys think of my theory. JJ said that he wants to focus more on the things that he presented forward with The Force Awakens. We know there's a huge story arc we have not heard yet. That's the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
We have not touched them at all.
Exactly. And we don't even know what's his name, Max von Sydow's character.
Correct. So what if it's a strong possibility that a majority of this film is a flashback to the Knights of Ren and what they are, and Luke's involved in all of that? Is that okay with you guys if that's what they decide to run with?
Because this movie's never been about flashbacks. It's all the next episode is about the continuation of the story.
I get it.
You'd never go back. And I don't...
Notice Mark Hamill didn't say he's a major role. He just says he's in episode
9. And that's
9.
why I'm thinking it could be the Force Ghost. But I don't think you can go back. I think you have to move forward in time. You have to tell the story of the Knights of Ren. If they're still around, they have to come into the picture. Maybe they come because they don't... Maybe they've all turned against Kylo.
That's what I'm saying.
This could be the thing where Kylo redeems himself because the Knights of Ren are coming back and they're super powerful and whatever. And, it could go that route. But I don't think you can tell a big flashback movie. You can have moments like they did. They showed, Luke seeing what happened when he, almost struck down Kylo.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Stuff like that.
But that was brief. That was like a minute.
Right.
I don't think you can tell a major portion of a movie in flashback in Star Wars because it's just it's wrong.
How about this one? Luke was actually on Yavin 4 at that Jedi Temple.
Okay.
All right. And he was force projecting himself on Act 2.
I was just going to say...
So that both projections died at the same time?
He faded from from
Octo.
Crate.
Or Crate, yeah.
Crate. He faded from Octo.
Octo.
Double projection.
Yeah. Possibility.
I think that would be horrible if they did that, but...
Let me ask you guys this. Is it a killer if he's just a ghost?
I mean, that's what I expect. And that's
Okay.
what I'm preparing myself for.
Is that what you're preparing yourself for, Gary? He's just a
yeah.
Force ghost. I kind of assuming, too. Like, Alec Guinness was in 2 movies after he died as a Force ghost. I mean, Yoda was. I mean, so, like, to me, it totally makes sense to be the Force ghost.
Yeah.
It just is a thing. Well, we'd love to hear what you have to say about all these subjects, plus all the things we've talked about. So we'd love to hear what you have to say about Glass, the second trailer.
Excited.
We'd love to hear what you have to say
same.
about Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse.
Still excited.
We'd love to hear what you have to say about Henry Cavill being out
He's not.
as Superman. We'd love to hear what you have to say about a WB Superman TV series. And then Mark Hamill appearing in Star Wars Episode 9.
Yay!
When we come back after the break, we're going to be talking about the first episode of the first season of Star Wars Resistance.
Shazam!
Golly.
We'll be back just after the break.
So have you guys watched Resistance?
No, I actually deliberately
Okay.
did not. So
Let's go experience it.
we could experience it together.
I got no real interest in it.